Welcome back to my channel. So some of you might know that I've actually been discussing some different topics on my channel recently. I've sort of really been changing it up, and today is about how self-help changed my life. So if that interests you, if you're interested in manifestation or spirituality, or I also do about fashion as well, but if you are interested in like self-help and personal development, then do subscribe if that's something you want to do. Don't forget to hit the bell notification so that you can see every time I post a video, and let's get into it. So I should probably cut that out, but I'm probably not going to. So I wanted to talk to you today about the difference that it made to me, and I feel like this is going to be a bit of a vulnerable conversation for me as well. And I have mentioned this on TikTok, but I think a lot of people, I've mentioned it in the odd video, and I think a lot of people probably haven't really heard it. So when I was younger, I really struggled to deal with my emotions, especially as a teenager. It was really, really hard for me. I'm not sure that I really thought about the fact that I seemed to struggle dealing with my emotions and my thoughts a lot more than most of the people around me. Now, I know obviously you could argue, well, you don't know how much they were struggling, and I suppose to a certain extent that's true, but I did know that there was something that was different. I've also spoken on TikTok about how I really think at this point that I'm autistic, for a lot of reasons. We won't get into that in this video, but I found my emotions extremely overwhelming, and my thoughts, and I felt like I was always at the mercy of my thoughts. I was always waiting to see where, especially if I was in a good place, I was always waiting for my thoughts to sort of come and hit me, you know, like sort of bricks. That everything could be fine, and I could get a thought and it could come into my mind, and that was it, I was done. Because I didn't know how to handle those thoughts. I didn't know how to get rid of them. So my attempt at getting rid of those thoughts was thinking about them more, trying to prove to myself why that thought wasn't important, why that thought didn't define me. And of course, the more I thought about it and the more I tried to convince myself, now don't get me wrong, sometimes it's helpful to say to yourself, no, you know, that's not who I am, or actually that's not helpful, or whatever it is. But once it goes past a certain point, which it always did with me, telling myself that once it got past that point wasn't helping me, because I didn't believe it. And I would try to tell myself all of the reasons why that thought wasn't valid, why it wasn't an issue, why it wasn't true, over and over and over, and it wasn't helping. So I was basically feeding it. The more I did this, the more I fed into it, and the worse it got. The higher my anxiety got, the more the harder it was for me to actually function. I mean, literally function. There were times when I remember sitting with someone in silence for several minutes. I must have been sat there for 5 minutes plus in total silence when we were supposed to be having a conversation, because I had no idea. I was literally in my brain fighting this. I thought if I can push it hard enough, eventually then I'll fix it and it'll all go away. But actually it doesn't work that way, because if you get to that point, the more you feed it, the more momentum it's going and the more it flies off the handle. So that was something that I really, really struggled with. I also had really intense emotions, very, very intense emotions. I used to feel things really, really keenly, and there were certain emotions in particular that I would really struggle with. And this was something that, you know, I think I got a bit better at dealing with it, but no one had really taught me the tools to deal with this. And I knew about things like meditation, I knew about it, but I'd always found it really difficult. It had never really worked for me, generally speaking. I didn't gravitate towards it because I wasn't the sort of person who was relaxed and calm. I wasn't a calm sort of person. Like I said, I had a lot of thoughts, I had a lot going on in my head, and I found it really hard to relax like that. So it wasn't something that I really thought about much, meditation or anything like that. And I probably hadn't come across self-help much. So yeah, I think I got a bit better at dealing with it, but eventually I came across, I think it kind of tied into my spirituality, because I actually decided that I wanted to start exploring my spirituality. And for me, the first thing that really felt, or the thing that I decided really resonated with me, was spiritualism. And I think that was really because it sort of connected to mediums, and it wasn't a religion specifically. It wasn't really a religion as such. It was more about finding a way to connect. And that was something that really resonated with me. And so I started getting into that, and that was probably how I started getting into meditation. And when I actually started meditating, you know, at first it was really, really difficult. It was really hard because I had all these thoughts going on in my head, and I found it really hard. I found it really, really hard to relax. But you know, it was actually a revelation to me, even though I had meditated in school and things like that. But looking at it at the age that I was at that point, as an early adult, more like mid-20s probably at this point, probably closer to mid-20s. At that point, it was an absolute revelation to me to realise that I could just let those thoughts go. I was like, what? What is this? Like, I can have a negative thought and I don't have to prove to myself that I'm worthy. Like, I can have that negative thought and I don't have to convince myself that actually I'm okay. And then it was like, well, but how do I just sit with that? And I was like, no, you just let it go. And I was like, wow. Like, and I'm the sort of person, I probably wouldn't have thought that was possible because of what my brain was like. But after practicing meditation, I realised that it was. And I had an experience earlier on in my life where I had been able to let something go, but then I didn't apply it to everything else in my life. So yeah, I came across this really with sort of spirituality and meditation. And it was the realisation that I could just let these thoughts go. And it was also realising that no matter how bad I felt, I could actually rely on meditation, because no matter how bad I felt, I could sit there and I could try to let it go. And if I was struggling to let it go, that was okay. I didn't have to blame myself for that. The blame was not the aim here. It wasn't about being good at meditation. It was about trying to get relief for yourself. So I could sit there, and if I came out of it and I still wasn't feeling good, I could just go back into it. Now, obviously, this doesn't necessarily work, if you're working 9 to 5. I think when I first started getting into this, I was working that sort of job. But it was incredible to me to realise this. So yeah, that was definitely one of the ways that it majorly helped me, meditation especially, was realising that I could actually let these thoughts go, first of all, and secondly, realising that I could keep using it until I got to a place of relief. So yeah, that was really, really major for me. And yeah, then I came across manifestation as well, and that's something with, I think, I don't know whether people talk so much about this, but I think a lot of people have their struggles with manifestation. They have like their manifestation journey. Because I think sometimes we think we read manifestation, we think, oh, it's going to be instant. And actually it's often not, often because firstly it can take a bit of time, and secondly because I think we often fall back into those negative patterns. But coming across personal development also taught me that I could dream a lot bigger than where I was. And I think it was something that also helped me to connect to my individuality, my authenticity, because it showed me that actually who I was as an individual mattered. That individuality mattered, and I didn't have to fit it into sort of the boxes where I was, because I had previously dressed differently, and of course I came into the world of work, and maybe to a certain extent I'd sort of tried to fit myself into a particular box. And reading about personal development and self-help and how many people had used this and had really changed their lives was something that really helped me to start dreaming bigger. And it really started a difficult journey for me, trying to figure out how to work in that different way and what it was that I wanted to do. And it has actually been a tough path, and it still is at times at the minute, but it really opened my eyes and opened my mind to what was possible. And I wouldn't have, I would never, I think if I hadn't come across personal development, I would never have built the following that I then did on TikTok several years later after getting into that. I think at the moment it's at the time of recording this, it's at about 260,000. I would never have gotten into that. I would never have built that following if it hadn't been for that, because that really opened my mind to the fact that my creativity mattered, and I could look at expressing myself in new ways. So those are just some of the few things that come to mind right now as to why it helped me, and it also helped me to really develop my spirituality, and that had a massive impact on me in so many ways, because that's the thing that I always turn back to. And for me personally, and it's probably not the same for everybody, for me self-help and spirituality is very much intertwined. Again, that's just for me personally, not other people might feel differently, but for me that is the case. Because I really feel that when I get into a positive place, that's when I connect to my guidance, that's when I can actually feel what it is that I'm being guided towards. And I've had so many experiences of that when I've been in a really good place and I've known that something was about to happen and suddenly it's happened. And it might only be a small thing, but that was really incredible to me as well, to realise that we all actually have the ability to do that, to tap in that way, and that's something that I really turn to, especially when I'm struggling. And it also reminds me that if I am struggling and I don't know what direction I'm going, or I don't know how to solve my current issue, it reminds me that actually it's a mindset issue, that actually I can't see the wood for the trees, because of because in the mindset that I'm in, and that if I actually just get into a positive space and into a different headspace, everything's going to look different and the solutions are going to be there. So yeah, those are just some of the things I really wanted to share with you today, as to how self-help had a massive impact on my life, and I wanted to just get a little bit more vulnerable with you as well, and tell you in a bit more detail about some of my experiences as I was growing up and struggling with my emotions. So if you have any thoughts, or if you've had any similar experiences, or anything that you want to share, then leave them in the comments. It would be lovely to just have these conversations. And yeah, if you want to subscribe, that would be great. I will add the subscribe button, and I'll also leave my Instagram handle down below as well. I'm currently doing like personalized videos on Cameo. I'm also I've recently created a group program, so I'm working on that as well. If anyone wants to check that out, I'm going to put the links in the description. And I will see you in the next video. Have an amazing day.